Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about a game called Pawn Wars. Pawn Wars is a great way to learn how to play chess by just learning one piece at a time. We'll slowly get into it, but first we have to at least learn what a pawn can do. A pawn starts on ranks 2 for white, 7 for black. These are their starting spots. A pawn can go 1 or 2 squares on its very first turn. Pawns can never go sideways or backwards for any reason. There is no reason a pawn can ever do this, and this would be like this for black. He cannot go backwards or sideways for any reason. He would only be able to go 1 or 2 squares because he's on the starting square. This guy, on the other hand, he is not on the 7th rank. He's on the 6th rank. And so he can only go 1 square because he's already moved. So if you go 1 square, you've lost the right to jump 2 later in the game for just that pawn. So this guy can't go 2 squares anymore. He can't go 2 squares anymore, and he can't go 2 squares anymore. But all these other ones, they can all still jump 2 squares if they want to. So how would that look? Well, I can go 1 square with him because I've already moved, but he can jump 2 squares. And I can jump 2 squares with him because he hasn't moved, and same for black. Black can jump 2 squares. Now this is a very interesting position. When this happens with pawns, if there's anything in front of the white pawn, he cannot move. So I'm kind of stuck here. This creates a roadblock. Maybe there's a king here, maybe there's a bishop, maybe a pawn. Any piece that's in front of the pawn prevents him from moving. Pawns cannot capture directly in front of them. But let's hop over to this side of the board. On this side of the board, and my pawn cannot move forward. However, pawns can capture. There's nothing this direction, but there is something going to the C file. And on the C file, I'm able to capture. So in this situation, I can capture the pawn. Now black is able to move this pawn forward, but there's nothing to capture. And he's able to move this pawn forward and do a capture, but he cannot go to the E file because there's nothing on E5. So in this situation, black has 3 options because this guy also can't move. There's nothing going on for him. He can't move at all. This guy has 2 options, and this guy has 1 option. Those are the 3 situations a pawn can be in at any given time. As long as you remember that, playing the beginning of Pawn Wars will be a lot easier. Let's go ahead and dig into Pawn Wars right now. As you can see, we have reset the board now. This is the way the pawns should be set up when you are playing Pawn Wars. Every pawn should be setting on the 2nd rank. Every pawn for black should be set on the 7th rank. If you can't remember, or maybe your board does not even have the alphabets or the numbers, just remember a simple saying, white on right. If you're sitting this way, you'd be facing this direction, and that would be your right square. So as long as you have that set up, you're fine, you're ready to go. So let's talk about how Pawn Wars is a simple game where the goal is the first one to get a pawn all the way down to the 8th rank, or for black, he would go all the way down to the 1st rank. If he's able to do that, he wins the game. The game is just over. Another way you can win the game is if there's no pawns. So maybe black has lost all of his pawns. In that situation, even though I haven't got a pawn, my pawn, the white pawn, all the way down to the 8th rank, I would still win because black has no pieces to win with. One more situation is maybe there's a pawn, maybe just this guy. So let's just kind of create that really fast. Maybe just this guy. Remember what we said, if there's something blocking him, this guy here cannot move forward or capture. So black would be stuck. So if all these guys were captured, and that's all that's left, black would lose the game when it's his turn because he has no legal move. So that would be the other way you can win. So let's go ahead and look at what would happen if we went ahead and started playing a game and how that would look. So maybe on my first move, I might jump 2 squares, and my opponent might do the same thing. This is a neat little trick. I want to play the pawn to d4, but he can capture me if I did that. So I supported it, and maybe black doesn't see I'm about to do this. So he just plays another move. Now I can go up here and I can attack black. And black might say, oh, hey, that's a pawn. But remember, I protected it first, so I'm able to recapture. And now maybe black just jumps his pawn forward. He's like, well, if you're going to threaten my pawns, I'll threaten yours. And so we simply do another capture. And here's where black makes his mistake. He jumps all the way forward again, thinking he's going to do a threat. But this time, this guy is just a little too far. He protects here. He doesn't protect that far. And there's nothing down here to protect the pawn on d5. So I can simply just capture him, and there's nothing black can do. And the game might end like this. I have to capture him so he doesn't win, and now I can just go simply straight down to victory, and I've won. So one last thing, in normal chess, a pawn can turn into a queen or any other piece other than a king, but in Pawn Wars, you win the game. So the game would just stop right here, and we would set up back to the beginning position, and we would move on and play another game. I encourage you guys to try to play this 3 to 5 times, get comfortable moving the pawns, see how they capture each other, see how they work with each other, and then we can introduce new pieces. Stay tuned for the next video when we add another piece that will really kind of show you how things are really working, and we're going to learn them one piece at a time. As soon as you learn a new piece, you can start by playing Pawn Wars right away. That'd be a great way for anybody at any level to go ahead and do this. Thank you for watching.